Hi friends, thanks for joining Let's Tell Their... I'm your host Casey. This is a podcast about true crime where I have dived into warming up some cold cases. When I go through the case with the research that I've done, the facts given are thoughtful and truthful to the best of my knowledge. So let's go swimming. This is vanished in 14 minutes. Adrian Celeste Salinas was born November 5th, 1993 to Rick Salinas and Suzanne Cause. Adrian disappeared between 4:53 and 5:07 a.m. on the morning of June 15, 2013 in Tempe, Arizona. Adrian and her friends were hosting a birthday party at their apartment the evening of June 14th for a friend. At some point in the night, Adrian had seen his significant other, Francisco Ortega, known as Fran to his friends, whisper into another girl's ear, which really upset Adrian. However, at this time, Fran and Adrian weren't technically together as boyfriend-girlfriend, but they'd been on and off since 8th grade. So at this point in the night, Adrian leaves the party with Fran, and this is at approximately 2:30 a.m., and they go to his apartment where they continue their argument when Adrian lets Fran know she wants to leave. Fran obliges and takes Adrian back. When they continue arguing until Adrian gets out of Fran's car around 3:22 a.m. Since Fran hadn't taken Adrian all the way to her apartment, he made a phone call to Adrian's roommates letting them know that she was walking the short distance back home. I'm assuming it's probably like 2 blocks that she had dropped back home and that they should keep an eye out for her. According to Adrian's roommates, she did arrive back at the party about 20 minutes later. Adrian's roommate, Shani Dugan, had seen Adrian leaving the party again, only this time she had packed an overnight bag and told Shani she was going to drive back to France and stay the night, and that bag's going to be important. That was the last time any of Adrian's roommates or anyone from the party last saw her. However, at some point she had returned. When Adrian had left to go to France, she got into a single-car accident, cutting off another driver, and hit the median where she had blown both front tires. The other driver had called 911 and reported the accident at 3:44 a.m. By the time officers had arrived, Adrian had already left with her car. Adrian had been calling Fran multiple times that night, to be exact, 11 times between 4:10 and 4:45 a.m., and she had sent one text at 4:43 saying that she was coming over. The last phone call placed on Adrian's phone, according to phone records, was to Scottsdale Cab Guy, a local taxi service. Adrian had requested a driver to pick her up at the AM/PM, which is a convenience store in Arizona. The name of the cab driver is Thomas Simon Jr. Simon Jr. arrives at the AM/PM and calls Adrian, who answers saying, "Almost there." This would be the last time anyone would hear from Adrian. There is surveillance captured from the O'Reilly's Auto Parts store across the street from the AM/PM of a woman that matches Adrian's description, 1 minute prior to Thomas's call to Adrian where she said she was on her way. At 5:07 a.m., Simon Jr. tried to contact Adrian since he was unable to find her at the location even after she confirmed she was on her way. After police reviewed the surveillance footage from the convenience store, they confirmed that she never made it there. At 2:20 p.m. on June 15, 2013, Rick, Adrian's father, had begun to worry about Adrian since he hadn't heard from her all day, and this was concerning to Rick, considering it was out of Adrian's character to not have any contact with her dad, since she would call or text him at least once, if not more, a day. And Rick was even more concerned on this particular Sunday, since it was Father's Day and they had planned a backyard barbecue. So Rick starts calling around, first to Adrian's roommates, then to Fran, who all informed Rick that none of them had seen or spoken to Adrian since early that morning. This is when Rick gets extremely nervous and calls the Tempe Police Department and reports Adrian as a missing person. This is also when Adrian's roommates noticed the overnight bag that Adrian had taken that she was going to Fran's with was actually in her room. On June 17th, 2013, Rick and Fran go looking for Adrian's car and find it about 2 blocks from where the accident had occurred, with 2 flat tires and wrecked rims. Investigators had taken photographs of a BlackBerry cell phone and a notebook that were found underneath the driver's seat of Adrian's car. As photos were taken, the evidence was given to Adrian's parents. Also on this afternoon, Thomas Simon Jr. and his father, Thomas Simon Sr., the owners of Scottsdale Cab Guy, were both brought into the interview by the Tempe Police Department. Since Simon Jr. was the last one to speak to Adrian that morning, he kind of rose to the top of the suspect list. However, after a week that Adrian went missing, Simon Jr.'s DNA had to be collected. And Fran was also on the suspect list with the Tempe Police Department just because he was boyfriend, ex-boyfriend, significant other. You know how that goes. The boyfriend, significant other, husband, they're always first suspects. The investigators on that day had also searched the Tempe town lake, thinking that after Adrian's accident and her phone is assumed to have died after talking to Simon Jr., that she may have tried to walk back to Fran's apartment. They used sonar over the lake, but it turned up to be nothing. So at this point, you might be asking yourself, how does someone vanish in 14 minutes? Well, they don't. Sometimes they do. And then how does the department not notice the car they've taken pictures of not get immediately impounded? They noticed that the car wasn't at the impound and they had to go and get it impounded on the 18th. Even though the car had been found and photographed on the 17th. The notebook that they turned over to her parents, her mother had brought it back, but there was never any explanation of what happened to the cell phone. So at this point, like I said, the detectives basically only had Simon Jr. and Fran as their main suspects. Well, almost 2 months after Adrian had gone missing, the property owner 33 miles away from Tempe in the Apache Junction area notified law enforcement that human remains had been found on August 6, 2013, due to he had an unusual sudden presence of vultures on his property, and human nature, he had to go investigate. I would have done the same thing. It would take until August 15, 2013 to determine the identity of the remains to be that of Adrian Celeste Swain through DNA testing. According to the medical examiners, both Adrian's manner and cause of death were to be undetermined. Now at this point, you may be wondering, so did the cab driver do it? I was wondering that too. Well, come to find out, his DNA is not a match. At this point, Simon Jr. and Fran are both cleared as suspects, and the case goes cold for almost 2 years. I don't know what the investigators decided to clear Fran as, just because of the fact that there's not much information on why he was a suspect, why he was cleared to being a suspect. I'm going to assume, and this is just my opinion, is the fact that Adrian was trying to get a hold of him, and she had sent so many phone calls and the one text, and he was allegedly sleeping at the time. So, as of right now, the case has already had a pretty wild ride. And there's a couple more twists that go on. So, on January 13th, 2015, a man named Brian Patrick Miller is arrested in suspicion of the murders of Angela Brasso and Melanie Burnett from the early 1990s. While Miller is in custody, suspected the serial killer, a friend of Miller's informed police that Miller just so happened to be at a party in Adrian's neighborhood around the same time that she went missing. Miller is also known as the Zombie Hunter, or better known as the Phoenix Canal Killer. As of today, there is no information from the detective that says whether Miller is guilty or innocent or of the disappearance or the death of Adrian Salinas. And that is the story of Adrian Salinas. If you have any case that I should talk about, please email me at letstelltheirstory@gmail.com. Thank you for listening to Let's Tell Their Story. If you have any information about this case, please contact Tempe Police Department at 480-350-8311. If you are in the Phoenix area of Arizona, the information contact for the Federal Bureau of Investigation in Phoenix is 623-466-1999. Or if you're in the Tucson area, please contact the FBI at 520-623-4306. You have a great day.